Hey there, it's Pete with GCI Turf. I hope you're having a great day. And you know, out of everything I've been able to accomplish, let's take life out of the picture. Okay, take personal things out. Of course, you know I've overcome a lot in my life. Those of you who watch my testimony, you knew where I was, you know where I'm at now. God's good. But taking that out of the picture, strictly talking about business, out of everything I've ever done, as far as growing a company, growing a business, this is by far the single one thing that I am most proud of. Hands down, it's no doubt. When I started this 15 years ago, I'd have never thought, hey, someday you're going to have a bag of grass seed that's got your logo on it and people across the country buy it. I just didn't. You don't think about things like that. And of course, this online academy thing just blossomed and took off. And so many folks asked about my grass seed. We've been getting this custom blended for the past 4 or 5 years now. And it's the fact that I got my name on the bag of grass seed. That's a big deal to me. That's a real big deal to me, considering where I come from and where I'm at now in life. It's huge. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my seed. Everybody's asked about it. I'm not going to dig into the varieties and all in it. Of course, they're all INTEP trial certified, that kind of thing. And what the INTEP trial is, it's a testing that some of your big colleges or whatever does, and they test out the individual varieties of seed. And what I mean by that is there are 3 varieties in a bag of grass seed. Some you may find 4 or 5. This one happened to have 3. And the 3 varieties I went with were based off drought tolerance, disease tolerance, and color, dark green color. And just so happens to be these are 3 different size blades as well. One's a thinner blade, one's a medium blade, and one's a little bit thicker. None of which are as wide as like a Kentucky 31. They're just not that wide of a blade. So we picked out the varieties based off how they scored in the INTEP trials, which was very well. And this is what's in my yard. Okay, all the videos you see me making, the striping videos and whatever video, and I'm talking about grass and I'm in my yard and you're looking at that tall fescue, this is what's in it. When I renovated my yard years ago, this is what went in it. And I've been putting this in it ever since. I don't have multitudes of different varieties of seeds. This is what I have in it. So at the end of the day, the questions I've been getting is, hey Pete, will your grass seed work in my area? Well, that's kind of I was a catcher in high school and my knees hurt, so I'm gonna switch knees. That's kind of a loaded question, okay? And it's a question that's not real easy to answer. Will this grass seed work in New Mexico? Will this grass seed work in Minnesota? Will this grass seed work in California, Texas, Florida, New York? It will work anywhere. Now, of course, when you get deep south and really, really high north, you're getting borderline. Somewhere in between there, of course it'll work. I've got folks in Alabama on the Academy program, got folks in Texas, got folks in California that are on the Academy program growing tall fescue with no problem. Okay, it's the way you take care of the tall fescue as to whether or not it will work or not. It's to whether you fertilize it right, you weed control it right, you disease control it right, you water it right, you mow it right. All those things have to come into play for the grass seed to work. This isn't a grass seed, you just go out and throw it out and it just poof comes up and you got a perfect yard. It does not work that way. I give you my word, it does not work that way. So that should cover that question in with a big broad answer. The way the grass seed will work, it just all depends on your environmental condition, meaning shade, sun. Will this hold up in full, heavy duty 100% shade? No, it will not. This grass seed, fescue needs roughly 6 hours a day of sunlight for photosynthesis to take place for it to survive. If it's a half shade, half sun yard, you could probably expect it to be a little thinner than typical. If you're full sun, of course it's going to need water. There's so many variables that go into that question. It's hard to answer it specifically. I can say this. I'm in North Carolina, Piedmont, North Carolina transition zone. We get the best of both worlds. We're in transition, so we get the best that winter can throw at us to some extent, and then we get the best that summertime can throw at us to some extent, meaning we get really, really hot and can get super, super dry in the summer, and we can get really, really cold. I mean, heck, last year we had, this year, 2018, we had 2 weeks of single-digit temperatures in a row. So that's pretty cold for us. So that's the way I'm answering that question, is will the grass seed work in my area? It just depends on the conditions. It depends on how you manage it and maintain it. Of course, it also depends on how you mow it. It's called tall fescue for a reason. It's not called short fescue, okay? Hint, hint. So how much of this seed do I use, Mr. Pete? Well, that's a very easy answer. Let's start off with bare dirt. Total renovation bare dirt situation. You would use anywhere from 8 to 10 pounds of grass seed spread out evenly over a 1,000 square foot area. That's how we do it. It depends on if it's full sun. We may go around the 10-pound rate because I want it a little bit thicker to shade the ground. If we're in a little bit shady situation, we may go around 8 pounds per thousand because I don't want as much competition between the grass itself in the shady areas. So I would go a little bit lower, but that's bare dirt. Let's say you're and let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum in a very lush, dense, thick yard. I would only use this at 2 or 3 pounds per thousand. And the only reason I do that is because I'm aerating to let water, oxygen, nutrients, everything get down into the ground. I'm going to take that opportunity to introduce some new plants into my yard, some new fresh plants. Okay, some of these plants in my yard may be 6, 7, 5 years old. Some in your yard may be 20, 30, 40 years old. I don't know. But the objective is I want to get some new plants in the yard. That's why I overseed. Well, let's say you're in a yard where it's kind of weak and thin. You got good overall coverage, but you're kind of weak and thin. I would go somewhere around the 6 pound per thousand range is what I would do. Okay, that way you would help to thicken up that yard. Let's say you're in a yard where you got great spots of grass here, not so great here, you got a bare spot over here. Well, that all goes into your ground preparation. You know, if you got a really good spot of turf here, you may just do a basic plugging. If you got a thin spot over here, you may go over this area a couple of times with your plugger. And if you got a bare dirt spot over here, you may till it up or really bust that ground up even more so than the other two. And in 3 different areas of the yard, I would use 3 different rates of seed. I may use 2 pounds per thousand here, 6 pounds per thousand here, and I may go 8 or 10 pounds per thousand over in the bare dirt. That's kind of where you got to play around with it a little bit. You know, you don't want to put 10 pounds per thousand on a really good thick stand of turf because that you're creating too much competition between the grass itself. You know, tall fescue, we want it thick. We don't want it overly thick, okay? Because that can cause problems down the road as far as disease and all goes. So that should help answer that question as to how much to use in a yard. I don't think it's any, I think you can look at my yard and see it's a dark green fescue. That's the color of it. And the color has to do with the DNA of that actual variety. Kentucky 31 is a good example. You know, the DNA of it, it's just a lighter green colored turf, as opposed to a turf type tall fescue. And I'm not picking on KY31. It's just the only one I can think of right now. But you're only going to make that grass so dark, okay? This comes out of the box dark, and you can help to darken it up some more with the way you take care of it, mow it, and that kind of thing. So that's the color part of this. It's dark green. The second part is it's disease tolerant. Okay, it doesn't mean it's disease resistant. If you live in a hot, humid climate and you have a tall fescue yard and you get rainfall in the afternoon and that moisture sits on the grass blade overnight, chances are you're susceptible to getting brown patch fungus. That's just the chances are there. So it doesn't mean it resists brown patch. It means it tolerates, meaning it can heal up from it if you choose not to do fungicides. Of course, we have a very strong fungicide program, so we keep the disease out completely. And the third is drought tolerant. Okay, that's a big one. Oh, it's such a big one. It's not drought resistant. If you live in a hot climate, if you live in a mild climate, and you go 2, 3, 4 weeks with no rainfall, the grass will tolerate that to a certain extent. Okay, meaning it will be tough enough. Of course, my whole lawn care program is revolving around heat stress because it's such a big deal. I've spent 10 years of research trying to figure out how to trick the plant into getting through the summer, the cool season turf, getting through a hot summer. But at the end of the day, the plant still has to have water. That is I don't care what you do in the yard. I don't care how hard you work on it. I don't care how many biostimulants you put on it. I don't care how much fertilizer you put. I don't care how you mow it. At the end of the day, the plant has to have a certain amount of water. Example, why don't you not drink any liquids for 1 week? And then you shoot me an email and tell me how you feel. Okay? That's kind of the point I'm trying to make. The plant has to have a certain level of water. So I'm not trying to throw a lot of excuses on it to make it sound like if it don't work out, well, I told you so. I'm just telling you the bare bones facts. It is what it is. And anybody that's ever been doing this for a length of time knows exactly what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, can you buy, is my grass seed the best grass seed on planet Earth? Heck no, it ain't. It's probably nowhere close. At the price point we got on this compared to the prices of other seeds, it's probably not even in the ballpark as far as being the best blend of tall fescue out there. But I can say it's a very strong, of course, when it gets hot and dry in the summer, things shut down, go dormant. This stuff always bounces right back in the fall and becomes very vigorous all over again. So that's the scoop on my grass seed. Okay, because I've just had so many people ask. It comes in a 50-pound bag. You go back and watch the video again on the coverage rates. You can figure out how much you need if you want to get some. A cool thing for going into next year, 2019, next year, we're working on a 25-pound bag. Because I know lots of folks have little tiny yards, and you know, that's a lot of grass seed for a little yard. So hey, you may, if you want to get it, you may want to share it with your neighbor or whatever like that. Split a bag a couple of ways with some neighbors, friends, whatever. How long will it keep? That's a big question. So let's say you get a bag and then the first year you only use half of it. What about the other half, Pete? Well, it will keep for about 2 years. We'll have a video out real soon on how to water grass seed, and that is again, I'm trying to really stress this and get the point across. The single most important aspect of grass, whether it be an established yard or whether it be growing it from grass seed, aerating seed and renovation, whatever, the watering has to be right, period. You have to keep the seed moist in order for it to germinate. If you throw the seed out and just leave it there, and say, oh, well, it'll come up. Chances are it's not going to, unless you just get great rain, and that rain is consistent and not, super heavy enough to wash the seed away. But you have to keep the seed moist. So, hey, I hope this answers all the questions about the grass seed. And again, I'm just, man, I mean, my name's on a bag of grass seed. I mean, how many people get to do that? That is incredibly humbling, and it's just blowing me away. I cannot get over the fact that I have my logo, my company logo's on the bag of grass seed. People buy it. So hey, thank you very much. I am so grateful for everything everybody's doing for me. The support. God is so good. And like and subscribe and share. And man, get your grass seed right.